Hello friends, we are here in the very last chapter of the book of Acts. This is Acts chapter 28. So in the last chapter they were shipwrecked and they found out that they were on the island of Malta. And it said the Maltese people were unusually friendly to them. You know, they saw them coming up on the beach and they built them a fire and so Paul started to gather up some sticks and he was bit by a viper. And basically, the local people there were like, this man must be a murderer. Because though he was saved from the sea, you know, he was bit by this viper, and so this must be justice. You know, this must be justice of whatever God. I don't know what they believed there. But then it said that Paul just kind of like... he just shook it off and, basically threw the viper in the fire. And everybody was waiting for Paul to shrivel up and die. And when he didn't die, they were like, this guy's not a murderer. He's a god. And so it doesn't say that they worshipped him like a god, like they did in that other place that he went. But they were thinking it to themselves. So they did that, and then some like a local chief in the area, not a chief, but he was a guy that owned a large bit of land. He was a wealthy man in the area. Paul stayed with him for a little bit, and then he healed his father. And people started bringing all their sick to him. And so I think they probably had a really great response to the gospel there in Malta. And, like I said yesterday, I think that was the reason that God brought him to Malta. You know, he just really wanted the gospel to get there. And so he basically wrecked the ship so it could happen. Because how else were they going to get there? But what happened after that is I just want to say something first, and that's, I think we do this today, where when bad things happen to you, you often think, well, this is because I'm doing something wrong. We can criticize the Maltese people for saying, oh, he was bit by a viper, that must mean that, he was a murderer. But it's really, these things have nothing to do. When you when you are doing something wrong, I see a lot of people, bad people, that prosper. In fact, you see it all the time. And you see good people that suffer. And so there really is no connection between those two things, and that's something that Paul is proving, and it's been proven over and over in the Bible. And a main reason to look at this is because a lot of people will look at Jesus, who basically did nothing wrong, and he was crucified. And I think it's important to look at people and their circumstances and not blame the victim. So, just a small point there. So they end up getting to Rome eventually, and he's under house arrest. So he's chained to someone. They let him stay in an apartment, and he invites the Jewish leaders to come. And basically, they have the same response in Rome as they do everywhere else. The Jewish leaders come and they say something interesting. They say, we've heard nothing negative about you, but we're interested in hearing about your views because, we're interested in hearing about the way, as they called it, because we hear it talked against from everywhere. Now, first time I read that, I thought that it was talking about, Jews all over the world were saying, oh, don't go after that Christianity. But I think what it was really talking about was the fact that that the previous Caesar basically kicked out all the Christians. So there in Rome, Christianity kind of had a bad reputation. But that's not a bad thing to the Jews, because the Jews and the Romans are not exactly best friends. So he spoke to the Jews, and he probably said all the things that he had been saying. And in the end, it said that some of them received it and some of them didn't. Or rather, they went on arguing with each other about the things that he presented. So that's to be expected. That's the same thing that's been happening just about everywhere. But he kind of left it with one statement where he was quoting from an Old Testament passage where he says, in hearing you don't perceive, or in seeing you don't see. It was prophesied that the Jewish people, that they would hear the gospel, but they wouldn't be able to understand it. And so that's where he left it off. Now, it seems kind of like an abrupt ending to the book, because what happens to him from here on out. And I think how is it supposed to end? It's still going. These are the acts of the apostles. This is what Christianity is doing, and Christianity is still moving. There's no easy way to just cut off this book. This stuff is still happening. And so what's happening here with Paul is not the end. Maybe that's just where, the last thing that happened. It might be that this book was written just so Theophilus would know whether or not he was guilty or innocent. But what ends up happening to Paul afterward is he gets acquitted for the reason that he's in chains, but he was in chains for 2 years. 2 years, and in that time, people came to him every day, and he reached people, all the people that were chained to him, and he was able to reach people in Caesar's home, and many people became Christians. Some people say that this time in Rome, this 2 years that he was in prison, was the most fruitful of his entire ministry. Partially because in that time he wrote Ephesians and Colossians, Philippians, and Philemon. So not bad. After he was acquitted, he went around traveling, spreading the gospel quite a bit more. We don't have much information from that, but we know from I think it was 2 Timothy that things are, he gets arrested again, and then he's brought in prison, and it's not house arrest like it was this time. He ends up going to a very harsh prison, and there he ends up dying. So, you might say it's a sad end, but the true ending is that he came to Rome, and in a couple hundred years, Rome did not squash out Christianity, but Rome became the center of Christianity. Christianity ended up conquered Rome, and Rome was, at the time, the known world. And so it is because of Paul's effort that Christianity is the largest religion in the world, and that pretty much everywhere at least knows about this. So that's the hand of God, and that's the work, very largely the work that Paul put into it. So this is the end of the book, and it's a really glorious book, this book of Acts. But just know that you're still in the book of Acts, and that's a glorious book too. All right, tomorrow I will see you in the book of Romans. I'm really excited about that. Have a great day. Bye.